Jauan Jennings wants a trade or a new contract. We thought we were going to have a very easy offseason. Where's Brock Purdy ranked amongst execs, coaches, and scouts? And what does all this mean for the 49ers wide receiver room? Stick around for all that and more right after this. I'm Jason Aponte. That's Steph Sanchez. This is the Bully Ball Podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, the only podcast that hasn't requested a trade the entire time that they've been under contract. Steph, how are you? It's good to see you.
I'm great. I think the story would be a little different if we were wide receivers, Jay, but we're not. So we're clocked in, locked in.
Wait, are we not? Like, what position would you play in the NFL?
That's a great question, actually. I've given this great thought.
Okay.
I think I'd either be a corner, although I don't think I'm delusional enough for that, or a running back, because I think I got great vision. Because when I'm in crowds, like, hold my hand because I'm taking us through it, you know?
Like, you mean like a festival
I'm weaving,
or like a big crowd?
festival, Disneyland crowd. I'm weaving through the traffic.
Man, that's one of those attributes because you have so many good ones. Mainly, being smart and being, hilarious and, and incredibly stylish. I didn't realize that one about you, Steph.
It's true. I mean, but what is all that you mentioned going to do for me on the field,
A lot. I mean, that's it. It got Jalen Hurts a Super Bowl. All right, here we go. Like, now we're rolling.
Wait. What position would you play?
Wide receiver, easy. I mean, at 6'5", I may not have hands, but you got to throw them up, and I'd be able to get advantage. Like again, just throw it up, little guy. Like too little, like way too little.
Okay,
like,
you can run a route.
Like
you can run a route.
No, but again, I'd be a red zone threat. I'd be somebody that again, corner fade, throw it up. Too little. Like like when a lot of people.
Receiver.
Yeah, when a lot of people talk crazy on the internet, like, oh, when I see you, what you gonna do with me? You better figure out what you're gonna do with yourself. I'm 6'5". You little, right? All right.
He talking New York now.
I'm sorry. Yeah. You little.
New York now.
You little gang. You little. But speaking of possession receivers, and this is the perfect way to segue into it. I mean, you thought that we were gonna get into the offseason with no drama. I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily call it drama, but we almost just kind of just skated by and thought everything was gonna be fine. Here comes Jauan Jennings, wanting a new contract. And I want to start this by saying that Matt Mayoko was speaking today, and I think Rob has the clip, and he shed some light on the situation. So we can pass to that. Matt Mayoko, what do you have to say?
Remember that condition, or should I say condition, that kept Brandon Ayuk off the practice field all through training camp last year? I kind of get the sense that something similar is cooking up with Jauan Jennings and his calf.
So now he has an injury, Steph.
A phantom injury. Yeah,
smells like
before.
Smells like a hold-in. But I do want
to. Jay, wait, before you say anything, I think you'll appreciate this. The thumbnail for this video on my channel, I said, Holden loading. Thought you'd appreciate that.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. Look, I want to say a few things, right? First of all, the Adam Schefter article made it very clear that whether this deal got done before training camp, which is now 7 days away for veterans, he was going to hold in. So this isn't brand new news. And anybody that's like using this as some sort of like, aha, gotcha moment, saying, hey, I think he's going to hold in. Yeah, well, that's literally what the article said, when it came out. But I do want to say that this trade request and contract extension request comes at the most opportune time. And Jauan Jennings and his agent are super smart. I just want to make sure we say this. The 49ers wide receiver core is in a bad, bad, bad way right now, right? Not that you're bad about the depth chart, not that you're bad about who it is. I mean, you are bad about the depth chart, but all I'm saying is,
I was gonna say it.
after Jauan Jennings, what is it? And he knows that he outperformed his contract. He knows that he's absolutely necessary in 2025. He knows that the 49ers are in a position where they can't really say, get lost. But all of these things have come to a head. A few things can be true. Jauan Jennings deserves a raise. Jauan Jennings outperformed his contract. Jauan Jennings isn't going to be worth the squeeze, the juice of the squeeze with a huge contract when he becomes the fourth option on this team. If Brandon Ayuk comes back and Ricky Pearsall becomes what we can, I just really be clear? This is all I really want to say. If Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall are still behind Jauan Jennings in a year or two, and he's still here, we have a very big problem. We have a much bigger problem than anybody wants to admit. Jauan Jennings is a fine player. Jauan Jennings is a role player who stepped into a big role and actually did very well. Jauan Jennings is going to slot right back into that third or fourth role if Brandon Ayuk returns to form and Ricky Pearsall is what you need him to be. By the way, Ricky Pearsall isn't one of these like experiments where you're just like, oh, we hope. You spent the first round pick. He needs to be good.
Yeah.
And he needs to be very good. So don't conflate the two. But would you pay somebody all that money and then they're going to end up being a third or fourth option, fifth option if George Kittle is still the man and Christian McCaffrey's here? No, Steph. Why are we doing this?
Because despite everything you just said, this is the prime time for Jauan Jennings to ask for an extension.
Of course.
Right? And because of the 49ers being in a tough spot, for all the reasons that you mentioned, like this wide receiver depth is not great. And there's a lot of question marks about the guys that they have. And there's a lot of hope that they're putting into the guys that they have. So I think with all that, it's the greatest opportunity there is. I think the 49ers would want to punt this decision to the end of the season, in which case they would have more information about the other guys that they have to then say, hey, like we actually feel comfortable moving on from Jauan Jennings, which I think was always the plan, by the way, Jay. Like you don't just draft 3-4 receivers in like the last 2 years and bring them in to continue dishing out money to a wide receiver 3 who has outperformed that. I think you know, like that can't be debated, but you know, I think the plan for the 49ers was always to give them the extension he's currently on and then move on with your new younger core, which also includes Brandon Ayuk, who they spent a lot of money on as well. They let Debo walk. That was phase 1. And then phase 2, I think, was moving on from Jauan Jennings. But that's why we're saying, like, the timing of this, exquisite for Jauan Jennings and his side, because I think the 49ers are going to feel like they need to make this happen. And I can't blame them, because if you look at all the question marks, Brandon Ayuk, yes, I understand what Matt Mayoko has said about him. You know, it seems like his recovery is going really well, and the 49ers are surprised by his progress. I don't know if he's ready by week 1. Matt Mayoko himself, even after saying all that, said he thinks week 6 is probably like a good spot for him to come back. That's a good chunk of your season right there. Then Ricky Pearsall, we feel really great about Ricky Pearsall. First round pick, absolutely needs to get all of the opportunities to kind of take on that wide receiver 1 role in this offense. But you still have a pretty small sample size of what Ricky Pearsall is. So like, is what he gave you last year enough to make a decision on Jauan Jennings? No, I don't think so. At least like it's very promising. I feel really great about it, but you got to be able to see more to know for sure. Then DeMarcus Robinson probably facing a 3-game suspension at some point, you know, this season, right? We don't know when that's going to happen, but it's all but certain that he will be suspended at some point. And then you got Jacob Cowing, you know, who he has virtually no experience, right? Like you can't bank on anything with him quite yet. It's been yeah. My cat wants to get out of the room.
Dante Pettis is in the room.
I got what? Not the Dante Pettis reference.
That was a good one. Come on.
That was a good one. While we're talking about wide receivers too, that was a deep cut. But but Jacob Cowing, like you, again, promising offseason, but you can't make a decision on Jauan Jennings based on that. So like 49ers are in a spot where I think they are going to have to make something happen and extend Jauan Jennings. I don't think there's going to be anyone from this fan base upset if they make that happen. I just hope and I assume that the 49ers will find any way to make it team friendly and work for them, structure it in a way that doesn't, risk their long-term plans in any way.
And it sounds like the cat agrees. Now, here's my problem with this is I think now if I'm the agent and I'm Jauan Jennings, am I not here anymore? No? Oh, is it just me? Is it just me?
I just needed to let my cat
Ah,
out.
my bad, my bad. I got scared. So, here's the thing. The agent and Jauan Jennings are absolutely smart because they understand the leverage that they have. They understand the importance and they understand what they've done to outperform the contract, right? But isn't the best course of action for Jauan Jennings and his future earnings to be that they rework this contract, move around his I guess his amplifiers, right? He has the 50% snap share and the catches amplifier, right? Just move those to guarantees, give him a little bit more money, and still leave it that he can hit the market next year. So if you think that what you did last year is, you can duplicate that and you can get to 1,000 yards, isn't the bigger bag waiting for you once you get to unrestricted free agency, which would be next year? Which, by the way, no matter what Jauan Jennings does, is going to carry an 8.1 million dead cap hit for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm just saying, if I'm Jauan Jennings and I'm the agent, let's put some pressure on them. Let's get this money this year. Let me go ball out and let me go hit the market next year. And the only thing that I would say why the 49ers would be inclined to do that is because what is this idea about getting younger and
Yeah.
cheaper, and then all of a sudden you want to give a bag to a third or fourth or fifth option if God willing everybody is healthy? Like none of this lines up like at all for the 49ers plans. And if I'm Jauan Jennings, I want to hoop one more time to show everybody I can and then get out there.
The problem with that is that I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to hoop this year like he did last year.
Okay.
Last year was the time that he was getting spammed with targets because the 49ers had no other options. And, it took them long enough to realize George Kittle is a freaking man. I don't think they're going to wait that long to spam George Kittle this year. I think we've
Or
been
Christian
saying
McCaffrey.
it. Or Christian McCaffrey. I mean, that one's a given. And for the audio listeners, we're looking at Jauan Jennings' stats, 2024, 15 games played, 77 catches, 975 yards, 6 touchdowns, great production. I just don't see the opportunities, the targets being there for him at the same volume that he had in 2024. I think it'll be slightly less. So that could potentially hurt his chances of getting the bag that he thinks he could get right now.
Here's the other problem. Brandon Ayuk's going to be out till week 5, 6. I don't think it's natural to expect that he's going to come back and just be the second team All Pro right away.
Absolutely not. Yep.
Ricky Pearsall has a long list of just hamstring injuries. Let's just be completely upfront. You already mentioned Demarcus Robinson with the DUI. Jordan Watkins hasn't played a snap. Jacob Cowing hasn't played a snap. This gets really spooky in week 1 if Jauan Jennings isn't here. Jauan Jennings isn't here. Who's the starter, Steph? And I'll let you take your best guess, and you can, and I'll let the comments, say, hey, I'm comfortable with that. You let me know.
I mean, I think the fan base is comfortable with Jauan Jennings being, a bigger part of this offense going forward. And, to be fair, I think he's earned more opportunities going forward, but still, I still don't think it's going to be the amount of targets that he got in 2024. I do think there's space for him to, have more opportunities than he did in, like, say 2023, where he barely had like anything going, but he still was able to make an impact in his way. Third and Jauan, clutch time when he needed him. But yeah, I just like I don't know, and that's the tough part with, I think, the 49ers decision that they have to make. It's almost like if you do pay him and give him that extension, then you kind of do have to make him part of the offense, right? You kind
Yes.
of do have to make him part of the
Yes.
offense.
What are you
And what
paying
does
all that
that
money
do?
for a fourth? What are you paying all that money for a fourth option for? Wait, hold on. Real quick,
What
Steph.
does that do, Jay? What does that
But,
do? It takes
but,
opportunities away from the guys that you drafted, right?
but Steph, this is what pisses me off. And I'm about to go off real quick.
Cook.
People didn't want Brandon Ayuk to get their money because, oh, he didn't get enough targets and we don't use him as a wide receiver. You want to pay a wide receiver now that is going to be your third or fourth wide receiver. If all goes right, and it all needs to go right, Ricky Pearsall needs to be good. Ricky Pearsall needs to be good. You can't just sit there and say that Ricky Pearsall is some sort of one-off. You're taking it. He needs to be good. It's a first-round pick. So you didn't want to pay Brandon Ayuk because he wasn't being treated as a wide receiver one. But you want to pay Jauan Jennings to get targets as a wide receiver 1-2, and he's never going to get those if all goes right when it should go right. None of this makes sense to me at all, Steph. None of it makes sense to me at all. Why was there so much pushback about Brandon Ayuk? And now, oh, you got to pay the man. You got to pay Jauan Jennings. 66 of his catches came in 3 years. He has 75 in 1. I think those are the numbers. What are we even talking about? What are we talking about?
I mean, is definitely hypocritical from the 49ers fan base. And get this, Jay, and this is just one person's opinion. Maybe it's a couple more than that, people's opinions. But I saw someone say that Jauan Jennings is a wide receiver one. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
No,
I
he's
mean,
not.
he's better than, I think, a lot of wide receiver threes in the league. Certainly. Yeah. And he's done a lot with his opportunities, but he's not a wide receiver one. He's never going to be in this offense. Again, like, as long as everyone is healthy. And so there it is. And also, Jay, remember the whole narrative around Brandon Ayuk last year when all this was going down, and he held in, right? The fan base was like so divided and mostly against, it felt like, Brandon Ayuk. And I just don't get that sense with Jauan Jennings at all. They're different players. They have different personalities. I think that's what it comes down to. But I do think the way that people are treating this is, just a tad bit hypocritical.
It's just, look, and then here's the plan that I have. Again, and now walk with me, Kyle Shanahan, because I know you're watching. The plan for Jauan Jennings to be more productive is not more targets. And here's why. Because when you use your other players, and if Christian McCaffrey is rolling the way that you usually do, and you use those times to throw the football to him out of the backfield, and you throw the ball to George Kittle, perhaps the way for Jauan Jennings to be more productive and more efficient is with less targets. Because he's not the type of guy that you're going to spam.
Mm-hmm.
He's not your spam wide receiver one. He's a guy that needs someone else to draw the attention off of him. And if there was ever a case study for a wide receiver who has benefited from the Kyle Shanahan treatment, it is Jauan Jennings. He's an ex-receiver that is a contested catch guy who cannot get himself open with route running. Brandon Ayuk can do that. That's why you paid Brandon Ayuk. That's why everyone wanted to pay Brandon Ayuk. Perhaps the way to maximize Jauan Jennings' efficiency is by drawing attention to other players that you have that are all pros and letting him get those one-on-one advantageous matchups. Jauan Jennings is not the type of wide receiver that you throw the ball 10 to 12 times to. That is not how you maximize his efficiency. So this is going back to what I was saying. 1 full year of you doing what you can do and building up your reputation to get back out there instead of allocating all this money to someone that when everything is supposed to go right and it needs to go right, Brandon Ayuk needs to bounce back. You paid him a lot of money. Ricky Pearsall needs to be very good. You used the first round pick on him. George Kittle's still very good. Those are three receivers that probably should see the ball more than Jauan Jennings. Christian McCaffrey still plays football. Those are four players that are ahead of him that need to touch the ball ahead of him.
Yeah. And
Why on why on earth would I pay you the amount of money that you're seeking when all these things need to happen? Again, if we get to a place where Jauan Jennings is the best wide receiver on the field for the San Francisco 49ers, we've got a very big problem that we need to discuss. Because then that means that Brandon Ayuk never bounced back and you allocated all that money and Ricky Pearsall never panned out. I don't want to be the guy that's telling you this, but Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall need to be better than Jauan Jennings. If Jauan Jennings is the number one wide receiver on this team, you have a very big problem and something you need to discuss. And that's not up for debate. Steph, you can go now.
I like how you had that crash out moment and then he was very calm there. It was almost ASMRJ. But, we don't know how much Jauan Jennings wants to get paid with this new contract.
That's
right?
very true.
And,
that's very true.
We know that he's supposed to make $7.5 million in 2025. So we could assume he wants at least a little bit more than that. And also the security of, I would assume, a multi-year deal. 2+ would be my guess. And so if you look at other wide receivers that are in the 10 million plus APY range, you will see some receivers that Jauan Jennings, I think, is better than. Right?
Can you name some?
Yeah, I mean, De'Ami Brown, 10 million.
Yes, I agree.
Let's see, Rashad Bateman.
He's not better than Rashad Bateman.
You don't think he's better than Rashad Bateman?
Rob,
Mooney.
Pull up Rashad Bateman's stats with him because that's the contract that I think that is the most that I would ever even touch with Jauan Jennings. But please,
12.225. 12.2.
Yeah, no. I think that contract's fair, 100%. I think that's fair. But I want you to pull up Rashad Bateman and Jauan Jennings stats, and I want to show you something.
But it's not just about the stats, Jay.
Hold on, I box score. I'm not a box score watcher. I know who's a better route runner. I know who's in a run first offense. I know who's the fourth option on his team well too.
You're right about that. You're right about that.
Baltimore, that offense runs through Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, and Rashad Bateman still in less games has the same amount of numbers, if not better, in mad stats. But again, keep going.
No, I mean, Khalil Shakur, maybe. I know he's younger, but you could
better route runner.
Cases.
Better route runner, in my opinion.
But is that the only thing that we pay wide receivers for? Just route
Absolutely
running?
Not. Absolutely.
I mean, I know, and I know Jauan Jennings doesn't have the stats. I'm just saying, he could make the case for why he should, get paid in that range, right?
Yeah, of course, especially after this season, of course, 100%.
That's all I'm saying. So I think that's the range that he could be looking for. But, I think you've made it clear that that's not something you would be willing to pay him.
No, especially not because
I think that's fine. I think that's fine though. I'm not sure I would be either.
Right.
As long as the 49ers found a way to dress it up. If he can get that APY without him actually getting that amount at the end of the day, via lack of guarantees or what have you, however they structure the deal, that could be worked out. Because, I just know the 49ers always find a way to make something happen like that.
I just have a tough time with a long-term contract in which, again, John Lynch, you've been penny pinching the entire time, telling us that you want to get younger and you need to get cheaper. That contract, that an extension of 3 years, whatever, that spits in the face of whatever plan it is that you're saying.
I agree. But don't you think that the 49ers need to make this decision right now?
Of course. No, listen. I'm going to steal from the great Rob Stats Guerrera.
Oh
Because
no.
I saw him say this. He was spitting bars. I'm stealing. Stealing. This absolutely needs to be done one way or another. Shit'll get off the pot before it's time for vets to get here. I don't need you running around in the background. I don't need you holding in. All right. How do I phrase this without it being and coming off rude? Okay. It's not, there's no way to do it, but
You've
I'm just
never
gonna
been
do it.
worried about that, Jay.
Yeah, but now I am, and I just want to make sure I frame it this way. Okay, look. When Deebo Samuel asked for a new contract, it was literally off of the back of a season where he carried the San Francisco 49ers all the way to the NFC Championship. And it was one of the greatest offensive seasons the San Francisco 49ers have had from any wide receiver not named Jerry Rice or Terrell Owens. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. When Brandon Ayuk asked for his next contract, it was on the back of a 1,300-yard receiving season, 77-catch season, which was extremely efficient, in which he got himself open, young receiver, second-team All-Pro. Can we agree on that?
Again, yes.
Jauan Jennings is asking for something like this with a 77-catch season and 975 yards.
That's what I'm saying. Like he can't be asking for too much, right?
He better not be. And the other problem is, what's the context of you getting all those receptions and targets? Because every single receiver on this team went away. Ricky Pearsall unfortunately got shot. Brandon Ayuk's knee got destroyed. You couldn't rely on anybody else. Not that I'm saying, and I want to make this clear. He's a role player. Role players get expanded roles, and they don't do what Jauan Jennings did with that. So I want to say that. I want to make sure I say that. I want to give him his credit. But the idea that you're like, yo, trade me or give me a contract after a year where you caught 77 catches and you had 975 yards, come on, man. Like, say what you want about the way that Deebo and Brandon Ayuk, went about it. Say what you want about, what you think that they're divas. They were literally off of seasons in which the 49ers went to the NFC Championship because of Deebo Samuel. Remember that? And then Brandon Ayuk was a part of a Super Bowl team. Jauan Jennings helps, but Jauan Jennings is a role player. And you don't pay role players like stars. That's what bad organizations do. So this is what the 49ers need to do. Rework the contract, give him his guaranteed money now, and let him hit free agency next year and say thank you. Because if you can't rely on Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall to lead you into the future, we've got a bigger problem. We've got a much bigger problem. So stick to the plan. Is the plan going to be correct? We'll find out. But Jauan Jennings isn't going to lift you out of wide receiver purgatory if Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall both don't end up being what they need to be for the 49ers stuff.
I know you mentioned that, the 49ers have said over and over this offseason they want to get younger, and that's absolutely true. They've also, at the same time, this offseason, taken care of players who have shown up for them over and over again.
That's true.
And I think they want to set that precedent. Like, I think they want to reward players who, show up and have the 49ers culture that they want everyone else to have.
Real quick, though, Steph, real quick. I want you to name the players, and then we'll talk about.
I know.
No, but I want you to name the players just so we can say that there's a difference between those guys.
Oh, absolutely. Because I made the same point yesterday on my show. George Kittle, Fred Warner, top of their positions.
Nick Brendel shows up every day. I'm sure he's trying his hardest, but you're not going to take care of him just because he showed up.
Shit, this 49ers team might, but in any case. Yeah, I mean, Purdy, who's not, top in his position, not even, top 10 by many accounts. We can talk about that in a bit. But, still QB1, right? So you need to get that done. But I still think that with Jauan Jennings putting this on the table for you and you being the 49ers being forced to make this decision, I think they'd be okay with doing this regardless of what they've been saying this offseason, because I think he fits under the umbrella of he does it the right way. He fits into our culture. he's shown up when given the opportunities.
Brick by brick.
He embodies everything that I think like the 49ers and the fan base included really appreciate about, players on this team. So I think by that, they would be okay with doing it. But I could look at it from both sides. I would be okay regardless of what they decide because I can make it make sense either way. Because if they traded Jauan Jennings because they don't want to get a deal done with him, they don't want to extend him, they don't want to hurt the growth of some of the players that they invested draft capital in, then I'd be fine with that because I'd be like, okay, let's go. Like it's a new young core. Let's see what they have. I'd be excited about that, right? On the same side of that token, or on the other side of it, if they also decided to extend him, and I would assume at this point in time, right? Like we don't know, but I would assume that it would be a team-friendly, short-ish term deal that potentially wouldn't hurt, the growth of some of those players, then I'd be happy with that too. Like I could see both decisions potentially working out for the 49ers. And just based on Adam Schefter saying that, teams have inquired about Jauan Jennings, but the 49ers, aren't interested in trading him. That tells me that they want to see if they can work something out at the very least. So they haven't completely shut the door on Jauan Jennings, being a part of this team beyond this season, which, it, like I said, it could happen. I just hope that they do it smartly, if that's a word.
I want him here. I think that his role, his name is third in Jauan. It's not 175 targets in Jauan. Like, I like you in this role. I like you in this role. You're great in this role. And I'm very happy that when you got your chance, you shine because there's plenty of players that do and they don't shine. But you can't pay somebody for what they did in one season when everything that you're telling us is supposed to go to the contrary, where he needs to be a third or fourth option or fifth option, right? Don't you haggled with Brandon Ayuk because you said we don't use you like a wide receiver one. Now, if this comes out like with these numbers and you pay him for fourth or fifth option and you look around and you're paying way more than you're supposed to, none of this makes sense to me. I want Jauan Jennings on this team. I think Jauan Jennings embodies everything that is about this offense, the nasty side, all that stuff. We get it. And like you said, Steph, there's more to wide receivers than route running. 100%. And I guarantee you, Steph, there's 5-6 teams that acquire right now about Jauan Jennings and go ahead and get him and sign him a deal. And
I think so.
And a few of them are the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins, again, Mike McDaniel wouldn't want his guy back. And they literally just went through the same exact thing with Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith wanted a new contract. They traded him. You know what? Pittsburgh extended it. They gave him a big contract. They gave him a 1-year, $12 million deal. They gave him a raise. The Raiders need a guy. We love Jack Beck. But it's Jacoby Myers, Jack Beck, and just like we're going to figure out what else. No, they can use another guy for Geno Smith. The Patriots. You don't think Mike Vrabel wants to put his arms all the way around a guy like Jauan Jennings that's going to block people into Gatorades? There's plenty of teams that definitely would love to take that on.
Yeah.
But listen to the places that I'm naming. Pittsburgh, he'd go there. He's a third option. Miami, he'd go there. He's a third option. Las Vegas, he'd go there. He's a third option. Patriots, he'd go there. He's a third option. Listen to all these places that I'm naming that are fits for him. And look at the role that they want for him. None of these guys are lining up to say, yo, listen, we need to get Jauan Jennings 125, 130, 140, 150 targets. It's not realistic. So I get scared that the 49ers look at this season and they are so worried about what they do in this season because they need to bounce back. Things need to go good. Need to get everybody off the hot seat. That they overpay somebody and they just haggled with somebody who is a wide receiver one, who's an X who gets himself open.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't jive with me. None of this jives with me. And I don't understand. I don't get any of it.
Well, let me ask you, because I don't think I've heard your thoughts on this yet.
Mhm.
How much would you be willing to pay Jauan Jennings APY?
The Rashad Bateman deal is exactly what he should be looking at. That's exactly right where you need to be. You look at Rashad Bateman,
Yeah, I think that's super fair.
I think that's insanely fair. You look at Rashad Bateman, who's a superior route runner to Jauan Jennings, who is the fourth or fifth option at times in that Ravens offense, has similar numbers in less games. And that's the one. I think that's the deal where Jauan Jennings and his agent said, you know what? Oh shit, hell no. We're gonna go like we're going right in that office now. Because it did come out that this has been spoken about. It
Mhm.
just the agent leaked it to Adam Schefter to start putting pressure on the 49ers. That's all Adam Schefter is. He's just like, when you go to when you go to him with one of these stories, it's just to help leverage, right?
Yeah.
Negotiation. Yeah. That's exactly. That Rashad Bateman is a sweet spot. It's the perfect spot. It's the perfect spot. Doesn't matter what I think about the player, because I think Rashad Bateman is a better player than Jauan Jennings. I think Jauan Jennings blocks better than him. But if they featured Rashad Bateman as the number one receiver, I'm fairly sure you'd see a lot of other things. But this is not how the Ravens are. It's a Greg Roman offense. We're going to run with Derrick Henry. We're going to throw to our tight ends. But that's absolutely fair. And I think that's exactly where they should be going. That's the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot right there. Just give him his money now,
Yeah.
but let him walk next year. And if he doubles up and he does well, then thank you for everything, Jauan Jennings. Go get your bag. We wish you nothing but the best because there are going to be teams that are interested in you. I just am not interested in overpaying someone who is going to be the fourth or fifth option in this offense again. And that's what his role should be.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page on the range. We do have a super chat from Joseph who says we are going to have top 5 worst wide receiver room this season. Is that before a potential Jauan Jennings trade or after? Because I think regardless, it might be. it might. I don't think worst fit or top 5 worst, but I do think it. There'll be some pains there.
I mean, look, and this is why Jauan Jennings and his agent are so smart. They realize all of these things. They realize you need me this year. I outperformed my deal last year. I don't blame him for asking for a raise. I don't blame him at all. That's smart. But he realizes where they're at. If Ricky Pearsall gets hurt, if Brandon Ayuk is less than what he is, this gets spooky. Very spooky. So Jauan Jennings is capitalizing because he'll never have a moment like this again. I don't blame him. Let's just be very clear. I think what Jauan Jennings and his agent are doing is absolutely genius. It's absolutely smart. Smart. Why wouldn't it be? You have to capitalize off that. That's what they're doing. I'm not mad at that. Now, what'll get me upset is the 49ers haggling with a Brandon Ayuk, haggling with a Deebo Samuel who literally carried you, and a Brandon Ayuk who is your ex receiver and literally made your offense go at times, besides Christian McCaffrey, obviously, and I know everybody's going to start yelling, but I'm just talking about 1,300 yards on 70 catches is insane. It's insane. But now's when you're going to cave on this type of deal with a player that isn't of their caliber and never was. But he's not a bad player. I just need them to act accordingly. If you're going to play hardball and you're going to tell George Kittle that the first offer was, Black Monday, Bloody Valentine, whatever it was, you're going to haggle with Deebo Samuel, who literally took this entire team on his back to the NFC Championship. It was literally it was him and Jordan Willis with a block punt. Literally that's how the 49ers made the Super Bowl the NFC Championship game that year. And then Brandon Ayuk, who was and I think can still be one of the best route runners in the league. What are you telling everybody now? You're up against the wall, but you were up against the wall against those guys and you wanted to fight tooth and nail. So this is the part that's really going to be interesting to me is like, what are you going to do here? Because you've shown a way of conducting yourself with other players
Hmm.
And now you're gonna fold for Jauan Jennings? I don't know, man. Doesn't make sense to me.
But again, we don't know what Jauan
We
Jennings
don't know. We don't know.
wants. We don't
We
know
don't know.
what
We don't know.
49ers asking price is, or what price they're willing to pay for him right now is. I don't know. Sometimes these things
Man,
take time.
I was just looking
And
at the time, 40 minutes. All right. Keep going.
and maybe Jay, like, do you think the part of extension or the trade me part, do you think that's new, or do you think like they've been new about that too?
Um, I think all this has been clear. I think when you see a Schefter deal come out, I mean, a Schefter report come out, and he says, they've been talking about it. That wasn't. I mean, that was something that was clearly on the table. I think that's something that's unspoken, Steph. Like, I want a new deal, and if you don't come
So
to my
yeah,
agreements, then I'm just gonna ask for a trade, right? Like, it doesn't need to be like, yo, sign me or trade me. I don't think that you go in there saying that. I think it's like, hey, I want a new deal, and I think John Lynch and them, they've dealt with people, and every front office has dealt with people long enough where it's like, hey, if you're asking for a new contract, you probably are gonna want to trade if we don't get it done. So I don't know, man. Uh, I just I understand the bind the 49ers are in here, right? Because things can get very scary in week one when Brandon Ayuk's not ready. And what if Ricky Pearsall is not ready? And now you're starting starting Jordan Watkins or Jacob Cowing, and Demarcus Robinson can't play. It gets scary. It gets very scary. But I want the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, and John Lynch to listen to me real quick.
as they do.
Yeah, they always do. George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey still play football for you.
Yeah.
If you have worries about this fully developed wide receiver room, which could be Jauan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, or Brandon Ayuk, well, I have a thought. Perhaps maybe just throw the ball a little bit more to your all-world tight end. Perhaps let's design some more routes for Christian McCaffrey, who's a matchup nightmare on linebackers, to alleviate the issues that you have with development or where guys are. This isn't a if Jauan Jennings leaves, the offense goes absolutely nowhere thing. It isn't, Kyle Shanahan, and you know it's not. Let's look back at the 2019 wide receiver room in which the 49ers started 8-0 before what? 7-0, 8-0, something like that.
You know.
Before they traded for Emmanuel Sanders. Debo Samuel wasn't exactly the guy that they was. He was a little bit of a gadget guy still now. Kendrick Bourne, Marquise Goodwin, Jimmy Garoppolo. You've done it before. You've done it before. You can do it again. Jauan Jennings leaving doesn't mean that this is closed the book on the offense. And if it does, now we've got a bigger conversation to ask about Kyle Shanahan. So stop. Let's roll it back and let's be realistic. Because you can't play hardball with the players that literally lifted you year after year, and then all of a sudden say, I'm caving because we need you this one year, and then find yourself a year or two down the road overpaying a fourth or fifth option. That's all I'm gonna say, Steph.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a thin line, I think, between the two, and I think they're trying real hard to not cross it into the bad overpay territory with Jauan Jennings. And honestly, maybe that's what's taking long. I don't know. I have no idea, but we'll see. We'll see what they do.
I want to pivot this conversation to this. Um, let's just say, and I don't think that Jauan Jennings is getting traded, by the way. I don't think that. I think the eventual way that this ends, they're just going to fix his contract this year and let him go, next year to go get his bag, which that's great. Let's just say, you know, um, the 49ers trade Jauan Jennings, which would be hilarious considering all the Brandon Ayuk speculation to the Steelers for a fourth or fifth round pick. And hey, if you could throw in Calvin Austin, I'd take that. But Doesn't that mean they have to sign somebody in free agency, like an Amari Cooper or a Keenan Allen, or even
Take either of those dudes.
or a Tyler Boyd, who would have to play only in the slot because he's still
Yeah.
available because he's only a slot guy, and then you'd have to move Ricky Pearsall and have somebody else play out there. So one way or another, if you move Jauan Jennings, you're not done in free agency. You got to go get one of those guys. And I think that it would be Amari Cooper that is the guy. Like, I like Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen profiles like a better big slot than Jauan Jennings because I still think he's a better route runner and I still think he has some gas in the tank. But I think Amari Cooper is an X who can get himself open, which is what this offense always needs, desperately needs. But isn't that funny how, like, if you move on from him, then you've got to go supplant him with someone from free agency that's kind of just sitting there. And I think that's kind of funny to me.
I mean, Jay, I honestly think it's fair to say that it would make sense if they brought one of those guys in, even if Jauan Jennings
Or
plays
Gabe
out this
Davis.
season.
And so wait a minute. So let's do this real quick. Let's do this real quick. Did Gabe Davis not visit with the San Francisco
did.
49ers? Okay. But why is that then?
Why would they do that?
Why would Gabe Davis visit with the 49ers if they're so confident in Jauan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pierce?
They're not. This
So
wide
stop.
receiver room sucks.
So stop. So what do we So this is what's funny is I'm telling you that I don't want you to overpay for Jauan Jennings, but on the other hand, they're telling you, hey man, we're kind of scared right now. We're very scared right now.
You said it yourself. Spooky.
It is
Scary hours.
spooky because Ricky Pearsall is going to be fine for training camp, but God forbid that hamstring tenses up. We all love the idea of Jacob Cowing, but is it going to happen? Like we have what is it? I have parts of a plan. I have semblances of a plan. You don't have
Concepts of a plan.
Yeah, I have concepts of a plan. So if you're bringing in Gabe Davis, and you truly are, you don't feel good even about Jauan Jennings being there because when you brought in Gabe Davis, Jauan Jennings was a part of the fold.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
We got a lot of questions here to answer. And that's not even me with my thinking cap on. They literally did that. That's what your team did. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. They brought Gabe Davis in. Gabe Davis is still available. Like I'm just trying to piece this all together for me.
And a lot of these free agents that, we're mentioning probably waiting for training camp to roll around to sign on with the team anyway. So, yeah, I think Gabe Davis probably still potentially on the table. I think Tyler Boyd, who's been a career wide receiver 3, could be on the table for the 49ers. Cooper and Allen, of course, are super intriguing. And it would just make it a soft landing spot for Brandon Ayuk's return because you don't know when that is going to be, despite all the positive reports that we have on that. But isn't it kind of funny, Jay, how we're like, don't extend Jauan Jennings because Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, we need to see what they are over bringing these guys. But we're only saying those guys would just be like a 1-year deal. Would be my assumption.
Yeah, 100%.
A little different, but
they would. But I think I'm operating like the 49ers normally do in perfect world. Meaning, when Brandon Ayuk comes back, he's rolling. Yeah. Ricky Pearsall just takes his second year leap. I would feel very bad if Jauan Jennings is still ahead of those guys for a few reasons. Pearsall needs to be good. I keep saying it. Ricky Pearsall isn't like some, hey, we're just taking a chance on a guy. No, first round pick.
Yeah.
First round pick. We all for a few minutes thought we had Cooper DeJean. And then we got Ricky Pearsall. So you better be good. Because I see Cooper DeJean dunking basketballs for no reason in the offseason. And Ricky Pearsall, we don't know yet. Had a good end of the season. We're all hopeful. But if Jauan Jennings is ahead of those guys still, when they come back or they're fully healthy, we're in trouble. We've got a big problem. We've got a big problem. And if you're going to keep Jauan Jennings, keep him for the year. While you wait for those guys to come around, maybe just throw the ball to George Kittle a little bit. Maybe spam him a little. Maybe, use use Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield to catch the football instead of running him into the ground in between the tackles. And maybe you use Isaac Guerrero a little bit, maybe Jordan James. You drafted those guys, right? There's ways around this. So this whole like do or die scenario of like Jauan Jennings being like, oh, I don't know, like we can't. I get it. The 49ers are not comfortable, but it's not the end of the world. That's the part that I'm talking about. That's it.
Yeah, and we'll see what the 49ers do with Jauan Jennings. We'll see what Jennings does come training camp. We're, I think, right now all expecting the hold in. But Jay, I think we wanted to look at the 49ers home record and, well, their home win rate, right? The home field advantage since 2020 compared to the rest of the league.
Yeah. So, Pro Football Focus, depending on how you feel, certain day it fits your narrative, or they're a bunch of nerds. They came up with, they could be both. They put out a study of home field advantage since 2020, and the reason that they chose 2020 because was one the obviously the COVID season, but that was when the postseason right before it expanded, and you got an extra game, right? And the 49ers in 2020, we don't have to really talk about it. They didn't even finish the season playing in Santa Clara. That season, it was in Arizona. I believe they ended the season 1-6 at home, if I'm not mistaken. Their other 5 wins were on the road. And then 2021, the 49ers make the NFC Championship. They didn't win a lot of games at home. They went 4-4. So like they improved, but they were still 500. But they went on the road. And then in the postseason, they went to Dallas, they went to Green Bay, and then they lose to the Rams in LA. 2022, the 49ers do very well at home. In fact, 2023, it's even better. And in 2024, whatever, we don't remember last year. If I don't remember it, it never really happened, right? Like, again. I think the point of the article was this, is that in the last 4 years, historically, home teams are losing more regular season games than they ever have. And it's about a 54-55% rate that teams are winning at home in a regular season. However, the San Francisco 49ers are the number 1 offensive graded team at home. At home. And the number 4 defensive graded team at home. And it's just funny how that goes against like, hey, the win-loss. But I think the point is like you really have to watch the games, right? Because how many games did the 49ers kick away at home that they should have won? That they probably were playing better for 3.75 quarters of that game over. But what I found interesting about the article was no matter what happens in the regular season, the postseason, home teams win. Home field advantage is still paramount. It is still paramount. It's almost like a 62% chance that if you're home, you're going to win. And a top 2 seed has made the Super Bowl in the last 6 seasons, I believe.
Oh, did he freeze? He's frozen on my side.
He's definitely frozen.
Okay.
Great shot, though.
Yeah. Everyone take a screenshot. Oh, no, it's just me. But he does have the article up on Niners Nation. I think like my one takeaway of that article, which I did read, was that, the 49ers have fielded some good teams in that span. 2020, not so much, but home field advantage, I think, for every team that year was probably atrocious just because of it was you were playing in an empty stadium that year. Like it must have been so weird for some of these guys. But Rob, do you feel like this means that Levi's Stadium has some aura now? Like, does it have an energy that the players are feeling now? Finally, maybe.
Look, I grew up in Connecticut near the Yankees in the 90s, and then the whole thing with Yankee Stadium was aura and mystique, right? I would say Levi's maybe has aura, doesn't have mystique yet. You got to win a championship for mystique. Right now, they just have aura.
Jay, You
Going
there?
back. Where did I stop? Because I feel like I was just rambling like for a bunch. Like where did I
No,
get cut off at?
you were talking about the playoff home field advantage and how that's
Yes.
still important.
Yeah, 62% of playoff teams as they get a home game, they win. What's funny is like when you look at the record and you can chalk it up to whatever it is, which is injuries in 2020 and injuries last year. But the 49ers have played a little bit better at home than I think we've given them credit for, especially offensively and defensively. Defensively, fourth highest graded. Offensively, the number one graded behind them, the Buffalo Bills, which, that makes sense going home. Um, but the record, again, like what we were talking about with box score and like watching the games, you can watch the 49ers offense move up and down the field, and that's offensively graded. It's perfect, but it's just, it doesn't align up with the numbers. It doesn't line up with the losses because we know why they lost. Because they lose a punter in one game and they lose their kicker in another game, and they have an egregious penalty or terrible play on third. Like one of those plays doesn't negate all the other stuff. It's just kind of funny how football plays out. I think that's really what the point of the whole article was.
Yeah. Parody is alive and well in the NFL. And I did not mean for that to rhyme, but it did. And Jesse's
sure did.
asking me to define aura. Well, you see, aura is kind of just an energy. It's just like this innate thing that people have, almost like a swagger in a way. But, I guess talking about it in terms of Levi's, it's just specifically the energy and like this feeling that it cultivates, I guess.
Yeah, people just make up words.
I know. It's just we just roll with it.
No, well, I'm just saying, let's see, aura.
That's the good one, Jake. What Jacob said: somebody's being and how they carry themselves. Like if someone carried themselves really well and confidently, they got aura.
Tom Brady has aura.
Yeah.
Who else? Name another football player that has aura.
Pearsall, like everyone, like anytime Ricky Pearsall posts a picture, everyone, like all the comments is like, he has so much aura.
Yeah. Sounds like Tom Brady. Sounds like Tom Brady's like out here flirting with Sydney Sweeney and Sophia.
Yeah, he's
Sophia
putting his feelers out, man.
This is
he's putting his feelers out.
Look at me. Enough, Tom Brady. Enough. We've it's just how much more? Enough. Just stop, man. We get it. Enough, man. Oh my God. Let me check how much time we've got. All right. 57 minutes. Appreciate all you guys. This is the perfect place to end it. Us threatening Tom Brady over Sydney Sweeney and Sofia Vergara. My name is Jason Aponte. That's Steph Sanchez. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. Make sure you subscribe to the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio podcast. Make sure you follow Steph on Twitter at Steph49K. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Jason Aponte2103. Steph.
Oh no, he froze again. And I figure that he was gonna send us off just then. But Rob, you might have to take it over. I guess I could. I mean, I'm here, right? So yeah, Jay froze, but thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I don't know what Jay was going to say there, but I'm sure it was something funny or insightful, intelligent, all those things. So for now, from Steph and Frozen Jay, we're out. Peace.